Good evening, everyone. Dadman Walking 55 here. We're at 1 minute after 8 o'clock on the East Coast. So, hey, welcome everybody. It's our second week of 2023 SEC Weekly with Dadman Walking. Hey, interesting first week. Yes, my season's already over. I put the Gators in the toilet already. You heard a lot of that rampaging already. But hey, we've got some cool games still coming up this season. We can always still have fun together, making fun of our teams, even when they're bad. But you know what? But when you're like our guest tonight, you got a team that's like near perfect, kind of like the Gators were for a couple years. It makes football fun. But hey, uh, great to have you all tonight. We are the second of our 12 weeks because remember, 1 week we will be traveling on the road. We will not have a show that week. But hey, we're here now. We're just getting the season kicked off. Hey, everybody's still got a chance. Technically, you're either 1-0 or 0-1, and maybe a few teams are 2-0 or 0-2 or 1-1 if they play week 0. If you can ever figure out why they called the first week of college football week 0, please tell me. I don't know. It's just marketing, I guess. So, hey, but on that note, we got 4 of y'all here waiting already, but let's not hold up our wonderful guest of the evening tonight. You've seen him around in a lot of the YouTube chats and different places. This guy comes from high college football pedigree of one of the top teams of the Southeastern Conference, a storied program, lots of history. You better, if you're coaching at that school, better win a lot because you got to follow the great Bear Bryant himself. Let me introduce to you, if you don't know him, is a great friend of the channel, and you've seen him in our chats, OC Dobbins. Hello, OC. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Always excited for more football and really excited to get talk to people about football specifically. Oh my goodness. So how are you doing? How have you been doing lately? What's up with you these days?
Just sitting here waiting for this strike to end. The strikes,
No.
the WGA and SAG strike.
Oh my. Oh
Yeah,
jeez. Well,
waiting
hey.
for that.
Well, at least we have college football to talk about. And you got a heck of a team with a great promising season coming up this year.
Yeah, University of Alabama,
Now,
where I
and we'll talk
graduated
about
from.
right. Wow. All right. So, and we'll talk a lot more about your history. So let's go ahead and greet the chat real quick and stuff. So while we're here, and first off, hey, AFK Bard snuck in up the top. AFK, how are you tonight? With a lot of, oh gosh, equations like in parentheses unicorn plus monkey in close parentheses plus gas pump equals explosion sunglasses and okay. All right. AFK. I love the way your mind thinks, and AFK is our resident punster around here. So if you need a pun, AFK is on the job. And one of the famous bears of all time, talking about pedigrees of chats everywhere, like the University of Alabama. This guy is royalty and the YouTube chats. The great Snortapoopus Q Burr. How are you, Snortapoopus? We got Buddy Hepburn. He's here with us tonight. This guy's great, full of sports knowledge, my friends. Really good guy. Thank you, buddy, for being here. And Joseph Dredd, hell back to you.
Oh,
Good
yeah,
to see you tonight.
Dredd.
Yes. All right. Let's see. And I think that's everybody that we got that's new and unique and that's in here. Oh, well, sneaking in the back is the great Squeaker Mouse. Hey. She says she knows nothing about football, but yeah, she knows some football. So, but hey, Squeaker, good to see you tonight, my friend. And howdy back to you. So, all right. Exactly. So we got this. Yeah, Snortapoopus. Don't yeah, you do that. You say that all the time, Snortapoopus. You're just a simple old bear, but we know. You're quietly lurking, waiting for your moments. So oh my goodness. Well, OC, as we'll get started with what we're talking about backstage. A little bit about you and your background uh, these days, and then we'll talk about some college football. How did you get started really in college football?
I mean, I grew up in Alabama, so when you're born, you have to pick a side. You have to be Alabama or Auburn. and I went with a smart decision and picked Alabama. But I mean, my niece and nephew went to Auburn, so we're a family kind of split. But and my brother went to Alabama and LSU. So he went to LSU for law school. So there was always that
Oh,
fun. But I
wow.
went to school at the University of Alabama for telecommunication and film, and graduated and moved out to Los Angeles. And I've been out here about 20 years. But I went to the
Mhm.
University of Alabama after being a fan already, and then now I was like an alumni fan. So
So you got your degree from there. Well, it's kind of interesting how you get a degree like that in Alabama and end up in on the West Coast. And
oh,
yeah, but
uh,
how's the industry? I mean, yeah, talk about your career a little bit if you want.
the University of Alabama actually has a really good communications college. So a lot of
Hmm.
people go there usually for broadcasting and like PR and marketing and stuff. But when I went there, the production side of things wasn't as good as it is now. It was still decent. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's a whole longer story to that. But I went back and got my degree, and then I moved out here, and I guess
Hmm.
kind of knew the right people and met them, and got into the industry and started at the bottom and worked my way up. But surprisingly enough, Tom Sharonis, who was the director and producer of Seinfeld for the first 5 seasons, was an alumni of Alabama, the University of Alabama. And he came
Hmm.
back to the school and taught a class and let the students and stuff basically write it and produce it and then post it and then put it in the film festivals and stuff. And the first time he did that, I was in it. And then he took like 4 or 5 of us that he liked and he brought us out to California to meet certain producers. So when we graduated, we were able to like go back to them and hopefully, beg for jobs and stuff. And then that's
Hmm.
how I got from Alabama into Hollywood, I guess, that
Wow,
route.
that's yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but you just don't. You just at least me logically, you don't think southeast to Hollywood, but hey,
Yeah.
if you get the right degree and the right break, then But then again, you
Yep.
have to go where the jobs are, which is big in the industry. You do go west, right?
Right. Well, I mean, Atlanta's pretty big. Nashville keeps trying to get bigger. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, it's a slow growth process for them, but I've considered moving back to Alabama and possibly working out of Atlanta, but right now I'm stuck in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, hey, I got to say, I'm so glad to have you as my guest tonight because we kind of hit a milestone tonight. If this it loads up, as long as it doesn't bomb and something gets struck, I always do all the caveats because you never know in the YouTube world. This should be our 400th video here
400.
on
Yep. Yep.
YouTube.
400.
Yeah, all right,
Yep.
woo, hit a big number. So great to have you here, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
and everybody that's out here in the chat. So hey, I can't think of anybody better because when we talked about this, I was looking for guests. I was this year, this is second year of doing this show with this format, and I was looking to expand the guest roster. Esh was on, Squeaker was on last year. We actually AOK is supposed to come on later this season, so it's kind of like a rotation of guests that are coming through with new experiences and stuff. So it's been a wonderful time. So it's a wonderful adventure, and my mission is out to make everybody at least laugh at college football somehow. So,
Yeah. It's all
but thank
fun.
you, everybody. Exactly, you can make it as geeky and nerdy as you want to. One thing is marching bands, uniform colors. Hey, you can definitely find a lot of stuff to geek out or nerd out over. But yeah, so I appreciate you coming on, and nice to hear your background with this because it's really interesting from my standpoint. Though you have a lot of football knowledge, which is kind of really unique. But you follow your team though, and in
Right.
the communities and the circles I am, that's like water in a desert because it's really hard to find somebody that really even knows or wants to talk football. What is it about football that you like that really got was it just because you happened to be at Alabama and it was a big program or
Well, I mean, growing up in the South as a little kid, like everybody played little league football, right? So I grew up as soon as I was old enough to play, I played. I was always the littlest person on the team, but I still, went through the gauntlet of it. And then every year I would play and got all the way up to high school. when everybody else started growing and getting bigger than me, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. They're going to kill me. And I got out, and I just became a watcher. So I just watched. Um, was at that time I was kind of like an avid or just a regular fan of Alabama. And as I got older, I got more and more into it and appreciated it more and more, and just the strategy side of it, and just I feel I love college football a lot. I mean, I don't hate NFL, but I love college football a lot more than I do NFL. I feel like the
Mhm.
players are trying harder. They're all trying to be millionaires, so they play and they put everything they have into it because it's all a I guess an interview for a job, and I like
Yeah.
that. I like their moxie to try and achieve that stuff. So,
Hmm. Yeah, and we'll definitely explore more of that in a little bit. But like the name of the show is SEC Weekly. We're focusing on the
mhm.
Southeastern Conference. Well, apparently our conference decided to start World War III in the world of college uh, conferences and stuff, and brought and scheduled for next year to bring in Texas and Oklahoma. What's your thoughts as an Alabama fan with the conferences realignment?
I mean, I'm okay with it, I guess. I mean, I just felt like before, like I told you earlier, I feel like Texas should have been in before Texas A&M, but whatever. But I'm just worried that they'll throw all the existing, formatting out the window and like realign stuff to where, you know, Auburn and Alabama don't play every year because we're both in the West right now, and I'm afraid they'll shift us around to where we play every like other year or something like that. And just I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to be interesting to see how they lay it all out when it's all said and done.
Right. Well, let me go back and say hello to a few people that came in. Stunning and Brave came in. He came in with a food equation. We got a great food equation. We had the other equation earlier. Now we got food equation. Esh Singh is here. Hey Esh, yeah, the guy that threw like so many combinations of D&D dice last year, and he actually predicted pretty good for the winners. It was like really interesting. Like I was telling you, one of the great things is people use any kind of methods that they do. He rolled dice. Squeaka used cheese. The missus I think did bands or something. So, and the great Lisa is here. Hey Lisa, saying hi to us. So hey,
Hey,
and
hey,
food
hey.
food math there. Uh, See, I where I'm concerned is on the east is, well, one thing I learned last year though was the matchups are not just within the West or within the East, like Florida, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, or Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Auburn. Auburn, Georgia have been going back since the 1800s. The length of some of these cross conference rivalries, I mean, could be threatened.
Mm,
They fought to keep one permanent opponent. Like right now, it's Tennessee, Alabama, East and West. These things we don't know what's going to happen with the rivalry, because that's a hated rivalry. At least I
yeah.
listen to the Knoxville radio station, so they hate Alabama. They so, but yeah, it's. I think they would be brokenhearted if they lost Alabama as that annual rival.
Yeah. I'd be bummed for that too. I mean, I love that guy. I love that that head to head fight there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I would hate to see that gone.
I like I said, I listen to that radio station, but I got, what I do to get myself really pumped up for the Florida Tennessee week? I get YouTube, I put on freaking Rocky Top in a loop. Nothing makes me madder than listening to that damn song that
that's
never ends, and
that's
everybody
torture.
sings it. The only thing worse than that is getting stuck on a bus with a bunch of drunk West Virginia fans that can't singing Mountain Mama, country roads. That was a bad experience myself. But the song that keeps on giving is Rocky Top. But yeah, so we've got that. Those are being threatened in addition to
Mhm.
the interdivision rivals. So I don't know how much you've kept up lately with the national expansions, realignments. The latest is
Um,
that that we've got teams from the Pac-12 have joined the Big Ten
mhm.
and the Big 12, and now the latest is Stanford and Cal becoming members of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
I mean, who's
I
left in
mean,
the Pac-10 or Pac-12?
or Oregon State, my Oregon State Beavers, and the Washington State Cougars. That's it. 2 teams.
The Pac-2.
The Pac-2, yes. I know it's bad. I love Beavers. I love my Beavers, and it's like I just they finally got good again, and now they're gonna fall off because you know what happens. You lose all that weight, you're stuck. You've got to be in those larger conferences. To for your athletic budgets, the TV contracts, to be able to generate revenue, and then it filters down to the. And another thing that I see as a threat is some of the traditional larger conference teams are going to fall behind because of these contract revenue deals, like the Rutgers schools like that in the Big Ten are not going to be able to keep up with the state schools. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just creating havoc. I mean, what did you think of that? I mean, as it is now, the SEC is about to go to 16. We're about to have 18 or 20 team conferences.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I wish they wouldn't have expanded past the last expansion when they added A&M and Missouri. I wish they would have just held on to that for a while, like maybe a decade or something before they tried to add more to it. But
yeah, that expansion was in 2012. That expansion was in 2012, so they barely made a decade. Yeah.
It seems like yesterday.
I know it is, but still, even then, it's a decade. They barely waited a decade, and even then, I'm all for kicking Missouri out. Just let Missouri go back and bring in somebody else out of the Missouri. So, but you never know. And of course, now the thing is, Missouri's in the East, which makes no sense.
Right.
So, we were talking backstage. Have you had a chance to guess at how you would like to see the realignment? Because from what I could see, if they do it geographically, you'd have to move the 2 Alabama schools to the east. You'd move Missouri to the west, coming in with Oklahoma and Texas. That way you'd have, I think, 9 and 9 or 8. It would be 8 and 8 east and west. That's the only way that you could do it geographically, and you keep Alabama Auburn as a natural matchup.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't thought about it too deeply. I mean, it's always a matter of just waiting to see what they actually decide. But I mean, then you have to ask, like, what are they going to do with the Mississippi teams? Like, are they going to split those guys up? Are they going to put them, are they going to put them in the West together? And then, it's, I don't know. I don't know where their mind's going to be.
I wonder if the league was prepared for what happened nationally, though, because who would have ever thought the day to see UCLA and USC in the Big 12?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of, yeah. It's just
because now you really have a coast-to-coast conference with that. The Big
right.
The Big Ten will be from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast now, and now they've got Oregon and Washington.
It's all about money. But some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's wherever the most money is to be made is what they'll do. But they're spread out. They're spread out far and thin. I don't know. I don't like that. I wish they would keep it to just sections of the country.
Yeah, make it some regional, because it just seems like to me it'd be hard. It's hard to have national rivalries like that. The Big Ten Pac-12 had kind of a natural rivalry because of the Rose Bowl, but now that's almost that's really gone now because there's no Pac-12 that's lit around anymore. So, and by the way, folks, we're celebrating. This should be our 400th video, and I bring that up because I got friends out here in the chat that are really trying to stoke me with things like this. Mall Liz, that's one of the famous hashtags to start a crusade around here. By the way, I don't know if you ever entered that debate. Darth Maul died in the Phantom Menace, cut in half and never to be resumed again. That's it. Book the end. So, oh my goodness. So, well, let's go ahead and take a look at last week's action, shall we? And so thank you everybody that's here. We've got 10 people watching us. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side, and make sure you hit that like button on the YouTube side. Subscribe. We're on the march to we're past 450. We're trying to get to 500 now, folks. Let's do it. And we got the great OC Dobbins tonight with us. So yeah, you heard what I said. And yes, slice and dice. See, leave it to the Darth Maul to come up to raise its head anywhere. Mikey Susie Ford, good to see you, sir. How are you tonight? So good to see you, my friend. All right. Remember our typical disclaimer: we are not a gambling site. This is not for gambling. And if you try to use my picks, you are responsible for your own losses because my picks usually stink. So we're doing it for fun. We're just people out to have some fun talking about college football specifically. All right. So hey, folks, we go with that. We'll look at here. So the first game of the week. We'll start off with your team, OC. A nice impressive start right off the bat with a 56-7 win. Alabama with 23 first downs, doubled the yardage with 431 yards on offense. Where I was impressed was 226 yards passing because I've in my special I picked LSU to win the West, mostly because I was not
Oh
sure
wow.
with Jalen Milroe because with the few times that I saw him play last year, throwing was definitely a concern and a question. But
Yeah.
he had a good game against a mid major team, 13 of 18 for 194 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, ran the ball 7 times for 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Bond had 5 catches for the Tide for 76 yards and a touchdown. Will Reichard 7 of 7 on the extra points, and Nicholas Vadatayo for Middle Tennessee actually 21 of 32 for 127 yards, a touchdown and a pick. So, uh, pretty good start for first game out this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed with Jalen's performance. I had my doubts after last season, but he's made a change. Like he's got the pass down because his passing last year wasn't that good. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think, but he really impressed me this last game, and he made me wanted to see more of him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, this week we'll talk about it coming up a little bit later. He will be tested this week.
hmm
Uh,
totally.
the Texas Longhorns come to town, and that was a struggle last year. And now Austin is a tough place to play, as I understand it. And that place looked like a freaking riot house last year.
hmm
Watching that game, I mean, even Alabama just it was a really hostile environment. So, but you get the Longhorns at home this year. We'll see what happens with that game. I mean, here let's talk about Alabama for a minute. Looking at this game, so you want to see Milroe throw pass more better this year? Are there any other things with Alabama that you want to see this year? Because I know that they only recently announced him as a starter. It's like they kept it secret till the very end. But is there anything else with Alabama that you may have concerns of this year?
Um, concerns, not so much. I mean, I want the defense to become more of like the grinding type force that they used to be back in the day. You know, just
Mm-hmm.
really like in like an attack mode. I'd like to see that. I think they've got the defensive coordinators kind of mindsets like that, so that makes me happy. Um, my secondary or the secondary, not my secondary. The secondary kind of concerns me a little bit. I mean, I think Texas will test them, and they got a good warm up with Middle Tennessee. So I'm hoping that they can rise to the occasion against Texas. That's my concern, and I know everyone praises Texas quarterback, but I don't, I don't know why exactly. But I'm hoping that they kind of shut him down and they don't let that guy run around all over the place because they usually are susceptible to like the running quarterbacks or have been.
Yeah, I remember the game. And we'll talk more about that matchup in the back half when we preview the game. But I remember that game last year was barely pulled it out at the end, and it was like
hmm
Texas started really hot, and then the starter got knocked out, and then the backup quarterback was hobbling for the most of the game. So says something about Alabama's defense.
hmm
Uh, being very physical. So all right. Well, that's a nice, easy win coming out of the gate for Alabama. Solidify their high rankings. Then we go. What we call. I've heard the term, so I use it here called the paycheck games. Week one, folks had a lot of paycheck games. You're going to see some one-sided scores. It's a cannon fodder. To me personally, it's one of the weaknesses of the SEC. One of the valid criticisms other conferences have had at the SEC. We play as a conference so many of these games throughout the season. It kind of it's hard to defend, but I mean, budgets and you got to have home games, and you can't always guarantee return trips and stuff like that. So, but that's all. Our friend Whoopa Trooper loves to give me a hard time about the SEC and stuff like that. So, I'm not sure if you hear what that from people that you talk to, OC.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's weird out here that people aren't into it as much as they are in the South, into college football and stuff. So there's not many people that have like their teams. Like there's a lot of Ohio State people and Michigan people, but I mean they don't really talk about it like passionate SEC fans do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I don't get to hear it like I do back home here. So
Yep. Thank you, Ash. Thanks for being here. I know it's late for you. Best to the family and everybody, Ash. Take care. So yeah, exactly. So in Arkansas, and like you see, another blowout win. Arkansas wins 56-13 here. Uh, Almost 400 yards of offense. Really, the stats numerically don't look that drastically different, except for the 5 turnovers. Western Carolina. That is horrible. That
yeah.
short fields, short drives, quick drives. KJ Jefferson for Arkansas, who I think is the key for Arkansas. They had a down year last year, but he was injured a lot. I was 18 of 23, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, 5 rushes for 11 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. 4 different Arkansas players had a TD reception. Brad Spence for Arkansas had an 85-yard interception return for a touchdown. The Western Carolina quarterbacks combined for 25 of 40 passing, 227 yards, and 4 interceptions. So,
Wow.
If you're doing fantasy, you did not want those quarterbacks on your roster. You'd be negative, beyond negative with that one. So, all right, we're going to move on. UMass at Auburn. This game was actually kind of close at first. I think it was 10-7 early in the game. UMass struck early, to respond to an Auburn score, but then Auburn pulls away. Hugh Freeze's debut. There, especially with you remember Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss a few years ago. Now he's returned to the SEC at Auburn. Any feelings about Hugh Freeze and now what he might do with Auburn, your big rival?
I I don't know. I hope he does nothing with them so we can beat them. So
Exactly.
I mean he's a quality coach, I guess, but I don't know if he's like Saban level coach or anything. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. I
Well,
mean, we'll welcome him.
hey, he's not Billy Napier. So anyway,
Yep.
sorry. I am so down on my coach right now, but that's another story for another Rampage stream. But Auburn blows them out 59-14, 27 first downs, nearly 500 yards. Uh, a true Auburn fashion with more rushing than passing. Peyton Thorne, though, made a debut for Auburn, 10 of 17 for 141 yards with a touchdown pass. Sean Jackson for Auburn, 5 carries, 64 yards with a 45-yard touchdown run. Jalen Simpson for Auburn had a 50-yard interception return for a touchdown and a fumble recovery for the Auburn defense. 4 Auburn players combined for the 6 rushing touchdowns for Auburn in this game. And really, there's not much we can say. Like I said earlier, if you got something you want to say, you observe, just feel free to stop me. But kind of some of these games, there's not a lot to say with them, right? Oh, gosh. You know what? Because we're going to probably get stuck on that Florida-Utah game for a minute. Oh, what's just here? Buddy Hepburn, if you're still out there, feel free to opine too, my friend. The Gators went on the road and laid a big fat egg, losing to Utah 24-11. Well, folks, the first play of the game for Utah from the line of scrimmage was a 7-yard bomb for a touchdown pass when the quarterback could have had a coffee break, sat back, did a dance and a tango, and checked his email and threw the back beyond it. Anyway, no, folks, the Gators sucked big time in this game. What I gave up on this game because I had other things to do, because it was just, you see your team with no offensive power. There was no thump. There was no life in this team. And it was just like I kind of moved on. And see, in the end, I'm surprised. They outgained Utah. They had more first downs. Graham Mertz ended up throwing for nearly for 333 yards. But it was like a very quiet 333 yards. It was just bad clock management again from the coaching staff, a lot of false starts, linemen not on the line. A lot of the complaints that happen with this are coaching type mistakes. In the second year, Billy Napier has got to be better for a program like University of Florida because you can't keep making first year mistakes. I mean, look at Colorado. Colorado came out with like almost everybody new on the roster, and they did not make the mistakes that Florida did this time. And this is, if you feel free, OC. Some people tell me I'm being a little bit too harsh. I got family that are Gators. One of our Auburn fans said, "Hey, have patience because they're great with recruiting," but I'm like Deion Sanders. I don't need culture or anything else. Some of the best teams had the worst cultures and players that hated each other, but they were good.
Right.
You got any thoughts with this Gator team?
Is that 13 real, or is that a mistake? 13 rushing yards, Florida?
That's real. That's real. Yes, that's real.
How you lose. That's how you lose the game, right there.
I put that number in myself. I know that number's real. It was like 20 or 25 carries for 13 yards. Most was because of sacks. Because folks in the college football, the when the quarterback is sacked, it's counted as negative rushing yards. Whereas in the National Football League, it is deducted from the passing yards. But yes, even the running backs, Trevor Etienne had like 7 carries for about 20 yards. The starting Montreal Owens only had like 3 carries. And one of the biggest complaints is, what are you? And this team had no drive on the offensive line. They could not open holes. Then when they finally started throwing the ball, it was too little too late. And the team was not prepared. It looked like just more of what happened last year. Except last year we had a quarterback that could get hot and carry the team when he went throwing the ball 20 yards out of the end of the stands, or I don't know. Just I really am negative with this team, and I think it stems with the coaching staff. This game, when I turned off and when I saw the final stats, and I turned off early in the second half, this is a game they could have come back and won. You go in and make halftime adjustments. They were only down at like I think 14-3 or something. It was a close game at half. Go and make some halftime adjustments. You can win the game in the second half. It wasn't a blowout. Utah was very average in this, except for the 70-yard pass play on the first play of the game, and then a turnover deep in Florida territory, which gave them no, it wasn't turnover. It was the famous, nowadays they got so many players, they duplicate numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you are not allowed to have 2 players with the same number on the field at the same time.
Right.
The coaching staff decided to have 2 players that on special teams that both wear the number 3. One of them was supposed to change their jersey, and they didn't, and they got a penalty. Continued to drive. Utah scores a touchdown. It's coaching. It's the coaching staff. I'm just really, and I tell you what, these kids work their butt off. They do the best they can, and all that. But these coaches get paid enough, and here's one of the other things. Everybody preaches be patient, but in big time college athletics, how patient can you be? And with these conferences becoming 20-team conferences, you're going to get left way behind by them. The transfer portal is something we haven't even talked about. I'm hoping to have a special about the transfer portal and the NIL down the road. I'm hoping to do that. That's a big topic that is also affecting the face of college football.
Yeah.
But I don't think Alabama, Saban doesn't use so much out of the transfer portal, does he?
He'll grab like a few players from other schools every once in a while. I think he does it every year since it was allowed. I mean, we've gotten some good players out of it. And then I don't think any first stringers from other teams, but
well, it's like Florida State. Florida State got a wide receiver from Michigan State, and there was another player they got from another big school. And look what they did to LSU first game. I mean, they first came out, and they didn't look pathetic and out of sync on offense. So that's it. And Joseph Dredd is right, though, with this, though. Kyle Whittingham is a good coach, very good coach, because you don't see many coaches like him or Saban anymore that stay in a program. Kyle Whittingham, I think, took over when Urban Meyer left Utah, and he's been there forever. And I tell you, I think sometimes that's what you need. That's why I think Florida in the East is in trouble, because I personally don't see Josh Heupel going anywhere. I don't see him as an NFL coach. Maybe he will. I don't see it. I don't see Kirby Smart as going anywhere, but maybe Alabama if Saban retires. But why would he leave his alma mater? And
He wouldn't.
and I think your better programs are going to be the ones where the coaches are good and they stay with their program.
Yeah, when they're committed to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that got us in trouble with Dan Mullen a few years ago. He was flirting with the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL, and then what happened next year? He went right in the tank, fired, and it just. I'd take a coach any day that's loyal to a program. Ed Orgeron,
Totally.
Ed Orgeron was a name that a lot of people do not like, but I will say whatever program he is, he's loyal to. And I always love when his press conferences with that Cajun voice, but he's always like, go Tigers, It's
Yeah.
like, because he was dedicated to his program. So, long story short, Byerson Barnes, 12-18 for Utah, 159 yards, a touchdown with a 70-yard pass on the first play. Graham Mertz, a transfer with Wisconsin. And if people know, I hate Wisconsin quarterbacks, but I mean, I thought he was okay in this game. I mean, 31 completions, 333 yards, touchdown, interception. Ricky Pearsall for the Gators had 8 catches, 92 yards. Shamar James for the Gators had 13 tackles, 6 solo, and 1.5 tackles for loss. So, yeah, it was looking back. I think I was more disappointed because I gave up on the game, and then I came back and saw they lost only 24-11. Because it tells me a team that had no fight.
Yeah, they seem confused. Like, are they a passing team or are they? I mean, they're clearly a passing team, but they need a little bit more balance there. They need to find their identity, I think.
And the line could not make. Well, the line wasn't jump. They had many illegal formations, not enough men on the line, and false starts. So
Wow.
that does not help. So, all right. So that was the Florida Utah game last week. That was a Thursday night showcase. We'll move through some more of these great paycheck games. Georgia ends up struggling a little bit in the first half, but puts away UT Martin 48-7. Georgia amassed almost 600 yards total offense in Carson Beck's first start with the Georgia Bulldogs. It's the first game beyond the Stetson Bennett era. Only 600 yards of offense, 400 passing. Wow. It's just, and you know what's interesting? Georgia stands to be a chance to three-peat national champions. That has not only been done once, never in the AP era, and has only been done once in the 1930s by the University of Minnesota. So it'll be interesting to see. Georgia's got a favorable schedule. Carson Beck struggled a bit, but it's different when you're the starter coming out. But then again, Georgia struggled with Samford last year. It's you can't judge a lot by a game like this. Brock Bowers, a massive tight end for Georgia, just phenomenal. 5 catches, 77 yards, and he had a 3-yard touchdown rush. Peyton Woodring made his college debut, 2-2 on field goals for Georgia. Longest of 33 yards, 6-6 on extra points. Georgia just rolls. And
it's a warm-up game.
Yep, exactly. Kentucky, another one. Kentucky played Ball State. This is one that could always be tricky for a team like Kentucky. But this shows that they probably have replaced the quarterback. They have a better offense than what they had last year that had really become really not a very bad offense, which is still stunning that a quarterback was drafted so high in the NFL draft. But you've got Kentucky only had the ball for 21 minutes, but still scored 44 points. Devin Leary was a transfer from NC State for Kentucky, 18-31, 241 yards, touchdown and interception. Caden Simonza for Ball State, 15-21, 165 yards, a touchdown. Ray Davis, a Vanderbilt transfer, 14 carries, 112 yards, had 2 touchdown running. And Barian Brown for UK had a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So good first match for Kentucky. Like you said, a warm-up game. Any thoughts here?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, a lot of people had high hopes for Kentucky last year, or they got happy about their progress, but I want to see what they do in the second game.
Yep, exactly. We go to more things. So, Ole Miss.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Why do we even play this game? See, 73-7. Oh man, Lane Kiffin, who many people call in Florida call him Lane Kitten, 32 first downs to 15, nearly 700 yards of offense, over 500 in the air. Even though Mercer had the ball for 35 minutes, 3 turnovers they committed, and Ole Miss committed one. I tell you, within the first 2 minutes, Jackson Dart had hit Trey Harris for 3 of the 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
When I watched the game, it was 21-0. Like within 5 minutes, it was very bad, and that's how many touchdowns they threw right at the start of the game. For the game, Jackson Dart ended up 18-23 for 334 yards, 4 touchdowns. He ran the ball 4 times for 36 yards. As I mentioned, Trey Harris had 6 receptions for 133 yards and 4 reception touchdowns. Quinshon Jenkins had 13 carries, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And Jordan Watkins, here we go, folks, another special teams or defensive score here, 70-yard punt return for a touchdown. So
Wow.
anyway, and our friend Snortopoopas is going to head to the bear cave. Good night, Snortopoopas. Good to see you.
See ya.
So really nothing to say here other than let's move on. Another game, Mississippi State, Southeastern Louisiana, which is a little bit of a struggle in the first half, but State pulls away. It's the first game. Well, no, it's the second game technically because the first game was in the bowl game last year without Mike Leach, the Pirate, and now the air raid offense is now changing, a little more of a running attack focus to add it in with the passing. Will Rogers for Mississippi State was 20 of 29 for 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jocavius Marks for Mississippi State had 19 carries, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Creed Whittemore, who's had a relative that played at Florida recently, 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. He also ran the ball twice for 57 yards, including a 53-yard touchdown run. Mississippi State outscored Southeast Louisiana 38-0 after Southeast Louisiana scored. So, hey. Oh, and Mrs. Hey, yeah, Mrs. is out getting supplies for a DIY project. Great to see you. All right. We still got 9 people here with us tonight. Hey, thank you. We're going to get through these paycheck games quickly, and then we're going to get back to our guest here and talk some football. Missouri beat South Dakota. Again, Brady Cook, starter, effective performance, 17 to 70, 21 for 172 yards, a touchdown through the air. He also had a touchdown on the ground. Cody Schrader ran the ball 18 times for 138 yards, 3 catches for 13 yards. The kicker for Missouri, it's something when you have to put the kickers on the stat lines, but he was 5 of 5 extra points, but did not hit a field goal, missed his 2 attempts. Luther Burden
Wow.
III, who's a star receiver for them, 7 catches, 96 yards on a touchdown. Again, another paycheck game. South Dakota probably gave a good showing, though. Only 25 points, so
good balance there for Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing to watch with them is the balance, how they will. Missouri was a team last year that could have had a much better year had they won some close games. They lost by 7 at Florida in a game they could have won. They had Georgia down by 10 in the fourth quarter, and several other games that they could have and probably should have won. That they could have been maybe 10-2, I think, when I looked at it last year. So, what are the games of the week? ACC. SEC, but SEC loses. North Carolina comes out on top, 31-17 over the Cox. North Carolina statistically outgained South Carolina by about 80 yards. And look at that big rushing total, -2 yards.
Yeah, I know.
No running. Yeah, it is embarrassing. It's actually worse than Florida's was that time. So, pretty balanced. 2 turnovers for UNC. Drake May, who's a Heisman hopeful, 24 of 32 for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, but had 2 interceptions for North Carolina. British Brooks for Daisy and Esh, who left, our British friend right there. 15 carries for 103 yards. Spencer Rattler, who had the old Oklahoma transfer, came in 30 of 39 for 353 yards. But see, this is a thing with him is he's always had this promise. Heisman talk, all this stuff. In the bowl game years ago, when he kind of trash talked Florida a little bit, and they blew Florida away. But when your quarterback that can't produce touchdowns, it's like, I mean, he completed that many passes, that many yards, but no touchdowns.
Maybe he doesn't have the supporting cast he needs
Yeah, it's just
around
Xavier
him.
Leggett had 9 catches for 178 yards. Maybe it's offensive play calling scheme. That's you need touchdowns, folks.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, North Carolina ended up winning this game. This is not the only ACC SEC showdown this week. There were actually 3 of them. Here's the second one, but this one, the SEC comes out on top with the Volunteers rolling 49-13 over Virginia. You can just see, well, shoot, I think I screwed up the stats. I flipped them. My bad. You got to put the yards on the other side because it was Tennessee with nearly 500 yards. And, so we flipped. I messed up with this one. Dadman boomer. So we got that one. But Joe Milton for Tennessee was 21-30 for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 9 carries for 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Wright had 12 carries for 115 yards for Tennessee. Dylan Sampson, 32 carries for 52 yards, three touchdowns, though. See, that's one of the things with Tennessee is now the development of a strong running game to go with the pass. They threw a lot through the air last year, but now having depth at running back and actually productive running really has made them a better team. And the channel favorite, Squirrel White, 6 receptions for 45 yards, longest of 19 yards. Why have we just love to say the name Squirrel White? So have you got any thoughts on Tennessee this year? Early on.
No, I don't think about them that much.
There you go. Okay, there you go. That's a good way to do it. It's just a blip on the radar. It's a speed bump on the interstate. Okay. Well, hey, Texas A&M, a Western Conference foe of Alabama, starts off with a big win against New Mexico, 52-10. Unlike their game against Sam Houston last year, you got it. One-sided stats really. Time of possession for New Mexico, 10 more minutes with the ball, but did not score. Connor Wigman threw for had 5 touchdown passes. Evan Stewart had 8 receptions for 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. Noah Thomas 6 receptions, 74 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dylan Hopkins for New Mexico was 15-24 for 115 yards with an interception. Any thoughts with this Texas A&M team? You think?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. Not that they were that good, but they're just always so questionable. I don't know. I mean, they beat us, so
well, they did.
I hate that about it, but
well, they did replace offensive coordinator now. Bobby Petrino, the old Arkansas head coach who had gone up north, also is now the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. If you remember last year, they really struggled offensively, and now one thing about Bobby Petrino, he may have motorbike issues, if you remember the stories and stuff.
Yeah,
but his teams can score some points, so that makes it dangerous. And we talked about this backstage. Oh, Joseph Dredd has to leave. Thunderstorms in your area. Thanks for coming, though. Make sure you tune in next week with us, or come back if the thunderstorms pass. But thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight a bit. I see. This is one that I can say Texas A&M. My thought with him is Jimbo Fisher. Is that how long do you have? I mean,
right.
The patience, the buyout on Kevin Sumlin was extravagant, and the contract Jimbo signed was huge. It's like, you don't pay a coach that kind of money to come in to not win an SEC West.
Yeah, like I said though, he bought some time when he beat Alabama.
Yep. There you go. You beat the rivals. That can help. This was a game that was actually kind of close. This game was about 16-10 early on, or 19-10, but Vanderbilt pulls away with nearly about 500 yards of offense. A.J. Swan for Vanderbilt, who's the clear starter this year, 15-29, 194 yards. Had 2 touchdowns and a pick. Also ran the ball 3 times for 24 yards and a touchdown. Will Shepard had 6 receptions for 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also made 2 punt returns for 47 yards. Cedric Alexander for Vanderbilt had 12 carries for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And the backup senior quarterback, Ken Seals, who was a starter a couple years ago, was 2 for 2, 52 yards with a touchdown throw.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, another paycheck game. And this is the last game of the week right here. This was the last of the ACC SEC weeks. Folks, you thought I was bad about the Gators. I tell you what, nothing worse than these daggum Seminole fans all hopped up on themselves. Oh, my personal Facebook with some Florida State fans. Oh, my good. You would have thought they just won the college national title after watching this game. But it was a clear dominating performance. FSU just steamrolled LSU this time. I mean, 10 minutes more with time of possession. Just amazing how this game was. It was close at one point, but then late in the game, FSU just pulls away. Jordan Travis for FSU was 23 of 31 for 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, interception. He ran the ball 7 times for 38 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Daniels for LSU was 22 of 37 for 347 yards, a touchdown and an interception. 15 carries, 64 yards. Keon Coleman, which is one of the transfers. I think he's the one from Michigan State. JT Kirk was here. He could tell us 9 catches for 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. Talk about using that transfer portal wisely. Here's a case. I wish my Gators would have done that, but yes. Brian Thomas for LSU, 7 catches, 142 yards and a touchdown. So this was probably the game of the week in the end, and that everybody's looking forward to, and it was a surprising outcome.
It's interesting to me. Is it like the numbers kind of like line up with each other? Like do you know what the penalties were for LSU in this game? Like I don't see how they got blown away that bad, as much as they did with the yards and the passing yards and rushing yards being kind of similar.
But I think with LSU, they hit a few more bigger plays because when you look at the number of first downs with the yards, but look at time of possession. FSU was more methodical with the ball, longer drives. Yeah, and they're executing. They're executing along the way, which I think, and they were effective. I mean, whereas LSU had big, quick strikes, scores, they also were stopped more often than FSU, and FSU just was more efficient with the scoring this time. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up real quick and see.
I'm sure they planned all summer long for this game. This is a statement game for them, so they probably all eyes were on LSU.
Yes, because apparently Brian Kelly made a comment that they were going to beat FSU soundly.
Mm-hmm.
So why do coaches ever do that? It's like, why do you do that? Because it's like you're just setting yourself up for heartache later when you do that. Let's see. I'm trying to let's see LSU and Florida State. Do this with this. Just trying to see if there was anything with that. Looking at the stats with this, and the box score. Looking at that. Let's see. We'll go over here. There we go. It's I see. LSU lost 1 fumble. Really not. I mean, 1 interception. That's not. I don't see the penalty set, but no, there's not. It's just. I think it was just a more efficient team effort. For FSU with it. It's just one of those games that I think a lot of times the thing with these games is they're snowball, the snowball effect. When one thing happens, because I did have it on in the background and I was watching it, and see they were LSU was only down 7 with 10 minutes left in the game. It was 24-17. Then FSU scored with about 10 minutes in the game, and then 2 stops, and then back to touchdowns. So it just, it snowballs, it gets out of control.
Yeah.
Then you end up, it just, those games that get away from you. So it happens to the best of the teams out there. So we looked at this. did this result kind of catch you by surprise as an Alabama fan with a Western rival?
It did. I mean, not that I thought that LSU was necessarily going to win, but I didn't think it would be that you know much of a difference there. I mean, I thought it would be a little bit closer if they did lose, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of shocked me. But
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
Florida State executed and did what they had to do, and LSU looked like they got confused and lost control of it.
Yep. It does. It happens. So, and I think one of those turnovers led to one of those scores at the end. So
Mhm.
it when you know how it goes when it gets away from you. And I tell you, this was probably more of an FSU type home game. It being in Orlando this year, I'm
Mhm.
sure the FSU people bought tickets. They're unlike the Gator fans; they're actually excited about their team. That you know, there's hope for FSU, which was not the case for a long time.
Right.
So we at one time the Gators were on top and FSU was looking up at us, and now it's kind of reversed. So the risk I'm
Yeah.
having is that a lot of people are saying, "Well, be patient like they were with FSU," but I don't know. Sometimes I think you can see stuff early on. Because look back at the Alabama uh, head coaches. I've heard it from the Tennessee fans. Like some of them that they had before, they knew they were stinkers when they were hired. They're like,
Hmm.
you could see this guy was not fit for the job, but maybe he was the best available, or that's who they had. Are there any of the Alabama coaches since Gene Stallings? That was one of the best transitions ever when it went from Bear Bryant to
Hmm.
Gene Stallings.
Right.
But after Stallings, it fell off. But were there any of those hires that
I,
you just knew?
I feel like I feel like some of them were just like seat fillers until they got someone that they wanted or someone else. And what they
Mm-hmm.
weren't most likely their number one idea, number one decision or not decision but choice. But um, like Franchione or whatever his name was, and then you had
Dennis
Price.
Franchione.
Yeah, Dennis
Yeah.
Franchione. Like he never felt like he belonged there to me. Um,
Mike Price came from Washington State, I believe. Yeah. It's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then Shula was just he was basically hired because of his name. So, but
Mm-hmm.
he's probably better as an assistant coach than a head coach.
Yeah, exactly. I know Tennessee fans felt that way with Derek Dooley. It was like
Hmm.
nice guy, but just was not there. I felt that way. Uh, you know, like Muschamp. I didn't.
Hmm.
Muschamp was one that was like, why? And I will say, but I will say too, with this Billy Napier guy, I saw early on last year. I don't think he's an SEC coach. I
Right.
think in a conference like the SEC, you know what you got. You don't grow into a big time
Hmm.
Power Five coach. One of our local stations had that conversation this week, and it really. I don't think you can. I don't think you can learn how to be a Power Five coach. I think either you have it or you don't. You start off successful or you don't. If you don't have a good, and I'm not saying you had to be 10-2 or whatever, but like Kirby Smart, he was like I can't remember if he was 10-2 or if he was 7-5 or 9-3, but it was a solid 9-3. Josh
Yeah.
Heupel had a good first year. They struggled, they made errors, but I did not see out of that either one of those teams the garbage that I got from the Gators last year and Billy Napier's first year. Missed assignments, nobody lined up, substitution problems, same mistakes, bad play calling, refuse to use your timeouts. Sorry, I'm getting panicked. I'm getting pumped because it's the thing. It's like you watch this. It's the same damn thing from week to week, and now it's carried over next season. Can't manage clock, no urgency. I,
Yeah, You need a head coach that is wired for it. You can have a
mm-hmm,
coach that's not necessarily wired for it. They can be semi-successful, but in the long run, they're not going to be that coach that you need, especially in the SEC. They have to be wired for the game in the SEC if you want to be successful. They
mm-hmm,
hire people that aren't cut out for it, and then they bring along more people that aren't cut out for it. And
mm-hmm,
then you might get some success, but you're never going to achieve the end all be all, the holding up the trophy and stuff. And you can kind of see them. You can like just clock them and watch them and see if, well, like this person's not going to make it. They're temporary stay. So
yeah. I'm just like I just you I could tell Tennessee's coaches were bad. I could tell the Georgia coaches were bad. You compare them against Spurrier or whoever the Gator coach was at the time. I could tell when our coaches were not getting it. But then just yeah, yeah. There was an article that um, Deion Sanders said this the other day, and I can pull up the article later if I want to. But basically, what he was saying was um, that he did not want to hear the talk about culture. Um, um, and from this standpoint, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, is that I got relatives that are telling me be patient, and a lot of the talking heads here uh, are like, well, we got to kind of be patient, but they're mad about it. But see, how patient can you be when you're adding more teams into your conference? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
you may have the top three ranked recruiting class today, but when your coaches look so damn incompetent, you're not competitive in games against like Utah or even maybe Missouri. Those recruits might be going somewhere else if they're going to, hey, we can
Right.
play for a national title at Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. Why are we going to go to Florida? And
Right.
and if your coaches are, I know I'm picking on my team tonight specifically, but it could be any program where you should expect to win. If you're Vanderbilt, if you're Missouri, uh, it's different. But when you're a school like Florida, and I will say there are annoying Gator fans. There are always annoying fans in every. They're snobs, you know. A lot of the Gator fans think that they're bigger than they really are because of some success that we've had at certain times. But you know, yeah, you either stay up with the big guys or you get left behind, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened. Like to Tennessee, Tennessee won a national title in 1998, then spent 20 something years in mediocrity to bad football. If you can't catch up and stay up with the big guys, you get left behind.
Right.
So,
So
and I
true.
know Alabama struggled with it for a while
Oh
after
yeah. Yeah.
James
Yeah.
Rawlings. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, we did that was our dark period. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we had a few that just didn't cut it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we all
Yep.
go through it. And I feel like your Florida teams, they all cycle. Like one year, or not one year, like a run, it'll be Miami, and then it'll be FSU, and then it'll be the Gators. Like you guys alternate in Florida all the
Yes.
time. It's just funny. I mean, Florida always has good teams, and I guess now you have to factor in like what USF or whatever.
UCF.
They always,
UCF.
yeah, yeah, they're trying to make a name for themselves the past couple of years.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
win a bowl game and they think that they're big time.
yeah,
So
I know that they're national champions. Yeah.
yes, exactly. But well, hey, we still got 8 people with us. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. We got the great OC Dobbins. We're talking some great college football, SEC. We're going to get into OC's back history with some football and what he makes, how he became a Bama fan, and let him talk hear about football memories, game memories in just a second. I want to bring up real quick. I want to take a look at the AP and the coaches polls this week and see what happened. No change at the top of the AP poll. Georgia stays number one, followed by Michigan. Alabama moves up a spot to number three. Ohio State, although they won a struggle at Indiana, dropped 2 spots. Florida State, by virtue of the massive slaughter of LSU, it actually picks up 3 first-place votes, jumps up to number four, solid position, followed by Ohio State, USC. We got a couple Pac-10 teams in it, Pac-12, well, current Pac-12 teams, but not to be for long. USC and Washington, Penn State, Big Ten. Tennessee is at number 9. They move up 3 spots with the win over Virginia. Everybody's favorite team to hate, Notre Dame, is 2-0. They're in the top 10. The great Texas Longhorns move up to number 11. When a big game with Auburn, with Alabama. I am so sorry about that.
How dare you?
I know, how dare me. Well, it's like I keep calling people by different names on my streams these days. It's like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But Utah moves up 2 spots with a victory over Florida. Oregon 13. LSU drops 9 spots to 14. Beavers, my one team that's good this year. The Beavers are now 16th in the nation, followed by North Carolina. Oklahoma's moved up to 18. Ole Miss has moved up to the 20th spot. Texas A&M enters the poll this week at 23rd with the win this week. So, and Clemson, by the way, after getting stunned by puke. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm very informal sometimes. I have names with hey, small town republics here. The Auburn crowd has showed up. OC Dobbins. Yes,
Nice.
Heupel's been a lot better than I thought he'd be. And I tell you what, I'm scared in the East. You got Florida's behind Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel. So, and that's going to be a big game later this year in Knoxville with Georgia going on the road to Tennessee. But Clemson, see, what I do, I have a lot of informality. Like Vanderbilt is usually Vanderpelt. So Clemson is actually Wimpson this week because they really laid an egg in that game against Duke. It was a 14-7 game, and then a couple late turnovers, a couple late scores. It ended up 28-7 to storm the field game, which I love to see. But they nearly fell out of the top 25 in the AP poll. Looking at the coaches poll, it was very similar polls. Georgia clearly number one, Michigan, Alabama, Tennessee ninth. So Texas is at the top 10 instead of Notre Dame. At this point of the year, this really doesn't matter. LSU falls 9 spots to number 14, and Clemson fell 12 spots to 21. Ole Miss is 20. Texas A&M moved up from 25th to 23rd, and Duke and Colorado made appearances in this poll based on their games last week. Now let's see. I'm going to go back. So we got Tulane. So Colorado and Duke and Colorado made appearances in AP at 21-22. Did you have let's talk a little bit outside the SEC for a second. Did you have a chance to catch either the Clemson Duke or the Colorado TCU games?
I saw a little bit of both of those. I wasn't able to watch the full on games, but I caught enough to see how bad it was going for the particular teams. But yeah, they were.
Well, I turned it over later in the game, and I was like flabbergasted when I saw Duke up. I was like, "What the heck happened?" I mean,
right.
And I'm like, and apparently Clemson is a team that does not use the portal very much. That was one of the talk points of conversation this week. So, man, who knows what happens? But Duke deserved that win. Colorado, that was a track meet with Texas Christian. Colorado is going to move in from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 next year. It was a typical Big 12 game. No defense, a lot of offense.
Mm-hmm.
And Deion Sanders, his first game as head coach of Colorado. They come in and they bring players from Jackson State and other schools, and I think they said like there's like 80 something spots rolled over, and like 53 transfer players. Just completely turn over the roster. But you know what he said in that, like I said in that article, hey, if you're not gonna, we don't want you here. You get good, or you want to work hard, be here, and they change. You talk, and at least for 1 week it's worked. We'll see what happens,
Right.
So it's a long season, a long career. So, well, with that, OC, let's talk about you with Alabama a little bit. What type? Okay. And we may have touched on it a little bit, but let's go back and refresh a little bit. But you went to University of Alabama, you got a degree there, you played football. What you got into football? What is it about football that really attracted you, especially being in the southern state like with the Alabama?
When I was younger, I think it was just belonging to a group of people with the same objective in mind. That team mentality. I like that. I mean, we're not like Texas or anything. Like they really, really, really love their football. I mean, we love our football too. It's not as much of a religion as it is for them, but it's just a part of our culture there in the South. I mean, among other things, but it's just growing up. It's what's talked about a lot. You have your seasons, and everyone knows the seasons. You don't plan weddings for Saturday and all that stuff. It occupies everyone's time, and it just becomes a part of your Southern culture. And then you grow up in that, you pick your side, and you go from there. But yeah, it's just it's the fun of it, the passion of it, the fanfare. It's it's an awesome environment to be in too. If you go to a live game in the South, really gets you addicted to it.
What is there any particular game that you have a fond memory of that whether it was on TV or live in person?
Um, that I have two actually. The one is I was actually down at uh, Panama City Beach when the what was it, the 92 uh, national championship game with Miami and Alabama, and
Mm-hmm.
I was there watching that at the beach, and just that whole game and the exchange and everything, and all those those different players, that really got me excited about it. And then one of the first games that I actually went to was, I think it was the first SEC championship game between Alabama and Florida,
Yes.
and I think it was in Birmingham, and hello Elizabeth, and
Hi,
and
Elizabeth.
it was
Welcome.
Florida,
Good to see you here.
Florida, yeah,
Yep.
Florida beat us, but that was a good. It was one of the first time I was actually in the physical environment for a
Mm-hmm.
game, and it was a high
Oh,
stakes
there's old
game and stuff. I was really
stadiums.
excited.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
old stadiums before all the Birmingham, that was an old stadium
Hmm.
back then too. It was probably a
Yeah.
lot of
Legion
metal, a lot of,
Field.
yeah,
Yep.
gosh, you don't have that
I
anymore.
wish they
That,
would
yeah, that,
I wish they would redo it. I wish they would have the Iron Bowl there every other year or something like that.
yeah, you bring back the tradition. So yeah, and I see, hello, Elizabeth Manchik, Manchikoff. Hey, welcome. And she
Manchikov.
knows you. Yeah, she knows you. Well, welcome. Hey, hope you enjoy your stay here with us. Well, OC here tonight. Anybody out there, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. We do all kinds of different stuff, not just sports on this channel. We do driving tours with my wife and all kinds of crazy stuff, Fortnite, and you never know what. It's a cornucopia of different things. So the 92 championship game with Miami, was that Gene Stallings was the coach that year, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the game Alabama won that game, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I think it
Okay.
was Jay Barker was the quarterback, I believe.
Okay, Jay Barker probably, yeah. Because the reason you said that, because there was one game later, I think it was in the Sugar Bowl when Alabama played. I thought it was Miami, and it was Bill Curry was the coach. That
Bill Curry.
one,
Yeah. Was
yeah,
that? I
Bill
don't.
Curry was the coach. And Miami slaughtered Alabama. Miami won big, but I will tell
Yeah.
you, Bill Curry got on one of his players for dogging it and stuff in this thing, and it was just like, to me, it was like it said, "We're Alabama. We're not prison you." It was really interesting to see a coach with class like that deal with something on the sidelines, because it was a game where Miami had gone up big time on that. So uh, yes, and yes, you're welcome, Elizabeth. And Small Time Republic said they had some SEC doubleheaders back in the day at Legion Field. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be nice to do. Go back to those days. So yeah, absolutely. Um, if you had to pick one team that you really dislike as your big rival, I,
Oh
I
wow.
mean, the obvious would be Auburn, but I'm going to ask the same question to Small Time Republic when he comes on in a few weeks. Uh,
Hmm.
I, Let me presume Auburn, okay? And feel free if you want to say why you don't like Auburn, but feel free to
I
pick somebody that's not Auburn.
I mean, to me, it's like Auburn's like your brother, your cousin that you argue with, and you're like, oh, you're going to fight and everything's going to be fine. But I would have to say I dislike LSU more than Auburn. I
Really?
just like LSU. I don't like because I've been to a game at LSU, and their fan base at that time, I don't know if they still are, were really horrible. They were really, really horrible fans, and it just made me despise them even more. But I mean, Auburn's Auburn. I like the rivalry and the head to head stuff, and of course I want them to lose all the time. Well, when they're not playing us, I want them to win, but I want to beat them all the time. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
would say LSU. LSU I don't like. Yeah, so
Well, that's that's interesting, because I will tell you, I asked a similar question last year, and I think it's really interesting about age. I'm 53. I tell everybody how old I am. I don't care. But I had a younger Georgia fan on that is younger enough that he just had his first kid last year, And when I was like, hey, I had him on for Georgia Florida weekend, and I was like, yeah, expecting Florida to be the easy answer. He picked Auburn.
Oh wow. Well, they're close to each other.
Wow. Well, they're close to each other. The rivalry goes way so far back, but it was the competitive balance apparently that I guess for so long Florida had trounced him so much that he didn't really care. He looked at Auburn as the rival, which I thought was interesting because in my case, going late 70s, early 80s, we could never beat Georgia. Vince Dooley poor mouthed his team all the time. They're the worst team in the world. They stink, and then they still beat Florida. That was should have won, And I remember never forget Florida beat out Auburn 24-3, got number 1 ranked for the first time ever. Florida Georgia lost 24-3. It's like that was a quick one. See, all small time saying LSU fans are either the nicest or the worst, no in between.
That's so I have
heard, I've heard some good things about LSU fans too, but I've also heard. I'm hoping with my guest coming on next week, we're going to talk about it from a Florida perspective that travels. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. When I went to the game at LSU, we were there, at Death Valley or whatever. And as we were walking through, and at the time my brother was going to LSU for law school. We were walking through the fans, and they're yelling stuff at us. They had a dummy hanging from a noose from a tree in an Alabama uniform, and the name on the back was bitch. And it's like they're just yelling at no like respect at all. It was just so. And this is before the game, and they were just loudmouth, and they're drunk already, and it's just they've been drinking all day, and it's been hot and humid, and they're not the nicest. But yeah,
that's why you want to get a noon kickoff with LSU if at all possible. That way they don't have all day to get liquored up. That's always the talk about this night games and
they're drunk at breakfast.
Well, we did visit the stadium a while back on our tour, and we showed some of the pictures. I don't have them available, but it was a nice stadium.
It's a nice stadium.
It's a nice stadium itself. I'm not wild about the campus because it seems very confined and narrow, but they have a nice plaza with throwback to the Hall of Famers and the Heisman winner and Mike the Tiger. I mean, it was nice. It was a nice facility, but to me, still the best looking campus has been the University of Georgia. They actually had it once where you could walk in and look at from the north end zone of Sanford Stadium. It was beautiful. I mean, and it was much better than Florida Field. Florida Field is just built straight up, just constantly expanded. It's not. Last time I went to the game was not comfortable, but hey, we actually joked about it. Had I thought about it on that last driving tour, if I'd have sacrificed some of the battlefields, we could have actually visited almost all the Western Division football stadiums.
Bryant-Denny's nice.
Yeah,
Bryant-Denny's a nice stadium. The campus is beautiful too.
What about okay? I just had a niece that graduated from Alabama, but I never got over there. But okay, you got to help me with something though, and I don't know. You've probably not seen the game in person, or have you seen since this has happened? The last couple times I've noticed something with a night game, they have these pulsating, flashing lights. With all the video boards and all the lights changing colors, black light, dark light, dark. I personally, I hate that in a football stadium. I just say put the lights up and leave the lights on. This flashing stuff drives me crazy.
It's all
does
spectacle.
it bother you? Yeah,
it doesn't bother me. I know it doesn't seem traditional and stuff, but I think they're just trying to like update it for the kids and everything, and just I don't know, make it more of a spectacle. I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, I guess it's cool. Some people find it cool and aesthetically pleasing, but
yeah, I'm just grumpy old grandpa. It's like it's like forget it. I was like, hey, we can't do that. We can't change. So all right.
Yeah, they're always upgrading. They're always upgrading there.
Well, I tell you, it's like I said, the last time I was at Florida Field, I did not like it. I was not comfortable. It was just did not just did not seem like a comfortable place to. It was not comfortable to sit. I mean, you're on the bleachers on top of each other, side to side, and all that. And hey, we've got another sub tonight. Thank you. for the sub. I don't have the notification. I don't have Stream Elements, so I'm not sure who it is. I don't have, and Twitter didn't, YouTube did not notify me. But thank you for the sub out there. We appreciate it so much for the support with the drive to 500. Check out our channel and our playlist because we do a lot more than just football. The missus helps carry me around with a lot of our Fortnite stuff and our show and tells that we do and our travels, our detour with the Dadmans. Check those out. And Small Times Republic said all the schools have gone to LD light show junk. Yeah, agreed. So,
Yep.
So in terms of, let's see, we talked about some of the games. There was one game though that I do remember as a neutral fan that does stand out, and I've got to ask you about it because, and not just because Small Town Republic's out here. The game at Auburn Thanksgiving with the long field goal attempt with the 110-yard kickoff kick return. What were you thinking when that happened? Because I thought it was brilliant that they put somebody back there to field the catch because that is something that a lot of time coaches don't even think about.
Yeah, I know. A lot of times they don't do that. I thought it was really smart on Auburn's side. I'm surprised that they tried to kick it that far. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah, it was embarrassing and very humbling. But yeah, of course I didn't like it at all. But kudos to them for pulling it off. It was not expected, and our team did not respond the way that they should have. So,
no,
kudos.
It was. I sat there very shocked. I'm like, did I just see that happen? It was like, yeah, that happened.
What? Like, where's the flag? Where's the flag? Call it back.
Oh, I know. It is crazy how that happened. Memorable. But yeah. Well,
it's fun now. It's all fun.
It's always the danger with that long field goal, because you're not really unlike a punt where you have lanes and gaps and everything else pretty much assigned. This in a long field goal attempt, you're really just trying to kick, but you don't have your pursuit lanes, you don't have anything set up like that. So
right.
That's why sometimes they pass on a kick like that. But then again, why don't you don't want to leave points on the board? I mean,
right.
You want to try to score and win the game there and over, and not go to overtime in many cases. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. I appreciate it. Any other thoughts? Anything other thoughts that you have with Alabama? Your memory? Oh, hey, show us your special souvenir.
Oh,
yes, folks. If you like Halo,
this is my Alabama Halo helmet that I painted. I painted and distressed it and everything myself. But it's where am I going? I went this way. Yeah, totally Halo. And I worked at Showtime for 2.5 years as a production executive, and they were making Halo the series and ruining it. And I started painting that back at the beginning of the pandemic, and I changed I was going to change the number to 18 after won that one during lockdown, but I haven't done it yet. But I'll update that.
I love that helmet. I also the numerals on it have that true Bama font. It really recreated that detail of it, and the stress on it. It looks like it's worn and all that. That really was cool when you showed that earlier. So, but hey, so that's got to be a prized possession. You got any other type of Bama gear?
No, I mean I've got my tickets that I had for the national championship game that was here at the Rose Bowl between Alabama and Texas back, several years ago. I've got the tickets from that and all the stuff that comes with it. But nothing. I actually have, back when I went to the University of Alabama, I used to do the weekly comics for like the upcoming game. So I had done several like victory upcoming game comics for the Crimson White, which is the school newspaper. So I've got a bunch of those old papers where I did those comics, which is cool. Those are like a prized possession of mine that they actually published and put in there. It's pretty cool. So
That's awesome. All right.
yeah.
Well, folks, we have the great OC Dobbins with us tonight. We're talking some college football, SEC specifically. We bounced around some of the national stuff, talked about some other general things, and some things that have been very important to him. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side. If you have a Twitch channel, follow us over there too, because we stream a lot of these type of shows on both Twitch and on YouTube here. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Look at what we've got. A lot of different stuff, not just sports ball and things like that. But hey, make sure you hit that like button tonight as we start into the next segment of our show, where we're going to take a look at the games that are coming up this week, and we're going to kind of take a look at them, give some thoughts on these games before we decide, before we show who we picked as winners of them. So hey, and as StreamYards likes to do, there we go. That wasn't too long of a delay this time. So hey, we're going to throw it down right at the very beginning, folks. We got the Texas Longhorns at Alabama. I mean, I think this is definitely the game of the week here. OC, what are your thoughts coming into this matchup? A return trip from Texas to Alabama this year after the game last year in Austin.
Mm-hmm. I am a little concerned. I think we played really well the last game, and I think we have an edge a little bit because where we kind of know what to expect from Texas, maybe they don't know exactly what to expect from us since we have a different OC and a different defensive coordinator. So maybe we can mix them up a little bit. And I did like the way that Jalen performed in the last game. But I'm excited for it. I'm leery, and I think it'll be close. But yeah, I mean,
all right,
we'll be biting nails.
We'll tell you who we pick in a little bit. Well, we're just going to kind of talk about the games for now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ewers is back for Texas as a starting quarterback. You know, Arch Manning is a recruit who's on the bench for them too. Eventually down the road, maybe the quarterback of the future. But yeah, Ewers is back, and last year they really came out and they jumped down Alabama quick, and then he got hurt real early in the game, and it's like Texas took a nosedive then after that. Although the backup was pretty good, but then the backups it was limping the whole game too. By the time it was over, so Bama really beat the crap out of Texas quarterbacks. Not dirty, but it's just physical, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a Big 12 SEC matchup too. We'll see what happens. I think Texas, yeah, could be overrated. Who knows? It's one thing to beat Rice at home. You got to go on the road to play at Alabama. Can they put 2 and 2 together and and go on the road? Like you mentioned, Milroe. I still have concerns with Milroe. It's until he starts showing consistency throwing the football against better defenses, against better talented teams like a Texas or a LSU or even a Mississippi State or Mississippi. The jury's still out, you know.
Yeah.
And is he going to be? He also runs a lot, but is he going to be more running or is he going to be passing? Or was Middle Tennessee just a game where it worked? He threw the ball. We just don't know.
He has a lot to prove.
Yep. So we'll see. I thought it was interesting though that Saban never named a starter until very close to the end. I mean, which led to a lot of drama as who the starter was going to be. Mm-hmm. But actually, we're talking about some of the backups at some point. But we went with Milroe. So the next game of the week, we have Kent State at Arkansas. This is another this is a paycheck game, but Kent State is from the MAC, a reputable conference. It's not necessarily a bad matchup, but Arkansas should, you know, we'll see what they do with this. But you know, KJ Jefferson under center, he's healthy again. You know, Matt goes to the SEC, which is generally not a much competition. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Not that. I mean, it almost seems like a paycheck game. I mean, almost again.
I know.
Yeah.
And the great Max Redstone is here. Hey, he says, one day, my friends, Bob's College of Knowledge is going to come back from obscurity and wipe all of you out like Delta House did. That one time in the movie with John Belushi. Great to see you, Max Redstone. Great to see you coming in. Laying it down right out of the bat. Hey, good to see you. So this is one of the interesting, I think, more intriguing matchups of the week. Auburn at California. Auburn
Mhm.
cut off the fresh, good showing against at home. It was it's somebody they should have beat, but Auburn struggled in those games the last few years. Going on the road to California, who also won a road game, so um, we know Max, but it was beautiful. It was nice poetry. This is an intriguing game. Well, is the Auburn team for real? Can they go put it together on the road, or is Cal real? I mean, this is really a game I really can't read one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's hard to tell. We just have to see who's going to step up. We may have a better idea of both these teams at the end of the day on Saturday.
And Auburn's quarterback, was he was effective numerically, but it was Southeast Louisiana, or
Yeah.
it was not a big conference team. They are playing at Cal, going to the West Coast, which is always hard for an East Coast team traveling.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it'd be 2 times zones, but still a hard travel. Well, we got the great small town Republic. One of the residential Auburn fans coming in saying Auburn winning Saturday is far from given. The front seven is questionable. So let's see. Will Cal run the ball? Can Cal generate some offense against Auburn defense? But I look at this game as probably down to Auburn's offense. Can Auburn score? That's the biggest question with Auburn. Hughes Freeze's teams usually score points. It is a Pac-12 game. But we'll see. I think Cal had a good opening week, but they're about middle of the pack of the Pac-12. So, then we got McNeese in Florida. The Gators get a paycheck game. Will the Gators score this week? Will they be able to score against McNeese State? That's never. Oh wow! Wait a second. I gotta go back up on Auburn, California, real quick because the OC. I apologize, but you're now outnumbered. We now have another Auburn B from O who's coming on the show. Exactly. B from O. Well, we got your Auburn guys on the West Coast this week, and so like Small Town Republic said, friggin' 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time kickoff. Gosh, there you go. You guys and your greedy. Hey, you know what though, OC? I've always had a problem. One problem with Auburn, and it's what are they? Are they War Eagle? Are they Tigers? Are they Plainsmen? What exactly? It's
They
Auburn.
are they are Tigers, and their war cry is War Eagle.
Yeah, but then the Plainsmen, way back in the 70s, I heard about the Plainsmen, and it's like,
I
what?
don't know anything about that.
You don't know that one? All right. Hey,
No.
Wade, the Colorado, Tennessee guy in here, and he's saying they're going to beat Nebraska by 20. Hey, good passion for your team, man. Definitely a lot to be excited for this week. Yeah, you're much more to be excited about that matchup than me with McNeese at the Gators. So it's like, you know why I hate these games? Because I'm either going to be bored because the Florida wins by so much, or I'm going to be mad because they're not winning by enough and they look bad. That's the problem with these type of games.
Yeah.
There's really not much we can say with that one. We got Ball State at Georgia. Georgia's on, home again against a MAC team. We'll see. Will Carson Beck improve this week? Will they get a better start, a quicker start than they did last week at home? We got Eastern Kentucky at Kentucky. Go ahead.
No, I was just say probably. I mean, maybe they are a little embarrassed that they started slow last time, and they'll be coming back to prove a point.
Exactly, and that's interesting. Georgia opening 2 weeks in a row at home. Both minor teams that they're playing. East Kentucky is at Kentucky. That should be a easy. We'll do the picks in a minute. Not a lot to say about that. Small versus SEC there, as is Grambling at LSU. Poor Grambling. I think LSU will probably kill the crap out of them after last week's embarrassment. Oh, wait. Okay, let's see. Max has to duck out. Hey, good side. Yeah, we stayed up quite late last night, Max. Great to have had you on our stream last night. But yeah, thanks for swinging by in here. Wade has to work during the game, unfortunately. Florida by 69. I love the way you think, but no, it's probably more LSU by 69 over Grambling. But so that's games. Anything? Any other comments on any of those that we? I mean, this is kind of this part of the year. It's hard to talk about a lot of these games because really,
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like some of these teams have like two paycheck games at the beginning of the year. Like they like Ball
Mhm.
State, and it's like you know you're not gonna pick Ball State, but it's just weird. Like you know who's gonna win a lot of these games. Like
Yeah,
there's no like question about it.
yep, exactly. So, uh, I know it's funny. This the first couple weeks there's like 14 games, and then eventually in the middle of the season there's like 5 or 6 because
Yeah.
of off weeks. So, this could be an interesting game. Ole Miss at Tulane. Tulane's ranked in
Hmm.
top 25. Also, Ole Miss though, uh, um, I still, it's still hard to look at Tulane seriously, but the SEC is going to have to take the Atlantic Athletic Conference and some of the other mid-major conferences more seriously because they can tend to beat some of the middle of the road SEC teams these days. So
Yeah. They underestimate them. They're like trap games for them.
exactly, and this could be a trap game for Ole Miss, especially coming off a big blowout of Mercer.
Hmm.
Going and playing Tulane on the road. You never know with that. Arizona, the Pac-12 makes a visit to the SEC land against and Starkville, Mississippi, playing the Bulldogs. Uh, Will Rogers comes off another great performance. We see Mississippi State has reestablished the running game. Their new days as opposed to the air raid offense. Arizona comes over having won their first game also, but this game was an easy Mississippi State win last year. Return trip here, um, desert in the south, and small time Republic is saying that with the Ole Miss, Ole Miss is only a touchdown favorite. So, all right, well that shows that there's some respect for Tulane out there.
Hmm.
You got any thoughts on the Arizona Mississippi State game because that's probably one of the few of the best that's left.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of people, if they're not used to playing football in the South, I don't know what time kickoff is for this game, but someone coming from a dry climate and then having to go play in the humidity and in the sun, it can really affect them. They'll all be dehydrated, getting cramps and everything. So, I mean, of course, that's an advantage for the Mississippi State players. So I could see
Mhm.
that affecting Arizona a little bit more.
Well, even at
But
night, I mean, it's like sometimes right in here,
yeah,
we'll
no,
walk
it's
outside, and
yeah,
like even at night, it's so heavy and humid, and it's
hmm,
just it can
yeah,
zap you. So, we got
yep,
Middle Tennessee at Missouri, Furman at South Carolina, Austin P at Tennessee. Just those are just there's really nothing to say. They're just true paycheck games with that. Unless Furman, hey, I mean, maybe Furman can pull us off as a little surprise. Are you? But I will say though, these three, maybe Middle Tennessee. I mean, yeah, they played Alabama last week, but Middle Tennessee in the recent years has shown some ability to score and be competitive in some games. So all it takes is Missouri to have a bad week because they're not the most
hmm,
athletic or talented team. That could be a game to watch as a
hmm.
potential upset special there. So then we have Texas A&M at Miami of Florida. We've got the ACC SEC here. A&M now second game with a new offense. Bobby Petrino is the offensive coordinator. Uh, Jimbo Fisher comes back to play in at Coral Gables, where he was spent in Tallahassee as coach of FSU for a number of years. How do you see this game?
Um, I think it's a statement game for Miami. I mean, everybody wants to beat an SEC team, so I think they'll come prepared. Um, and then who knows what Texas A&M will do? They're just for me personally, they're just too inconsistent with stuff right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
it could
go on the road. It is even though they're not
yeah.
big crowds at Miami, it's still a hard place to play. It is a very
Mhm.
rabid fan base. I did go to a Florida game there once, so with a Miami fan. Of course, I didn't. I did not wear my Gator gear, so. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I look at this one. how will Van Dyke do at quarterback for Miami? Or Cristobal being the second year had a disappointing first year. It like fell off the wagon in the last year on dissension. Van Dyke, the quarterback, was rumored to may have transferred. It was not a good first year in Coral Gables. But then again, A&M definitely fell off the track with ending up tied with Auburn at the bottom of the SEC West.
Right.
Very big disaster. This is one of the stories I say you got to watch going forward. I think Jimbo and Fisher is one of the coaches in trouble. Personally, I think the hottest should be Billy Napier. I have no mercy for that. I will say, but really, the one that should be that deserves it is Jimbo Fisher, because for what he got paid out and for what they paid to get rid of Kevin Sumlin, you should have been in the SEC championship game at a minimum by now for the money they paid him.
I just don't think they can afford to get rid of him.
Yeah, especially in this economy. I mean, usually deep pockets and boosters are the boosters going to do it. They're going to have to live with it because, last year there was locker room issues, there was fights, there were suspensions, there were injuries. It was a whole thing of things. And I can tell you something I heard off air later. I'm not going to repeat this one online. It did not happen last year. It happened years before. But A&M, but Bobby Petrino is the one thing I give them more credit for now, having a proven offensive coordinator coming in. They did have a good first week, even though it was against an average team. I could see this being a very, very tough game down the end. And of course, the battle of the smart schools that are private in both their conferences. Vanderbilt at Wake Forest. Vanderbilt 2-0. Can Vanderbilt? This is a game Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt wants to win 6 games to make a bowl game, this is a game they've got to win. You've got to go 3-0. You've got to get to 3-0 because I don't think that even though they're improving, I do not think that they will win consistently in the SEC. They got lucky with Kentucky last year. Kentucky's got a much better offense this year. Florida, they have to go down to Gainesville. Still a tough place to play when you're a team like Vanderbilt. So,
right.
I still think if Vanderbilt wants to make a bowl game, this is a game they have got to take. So, all right, we got that. Any thoughts on this game?
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, I think that I think they'll show up for the game. I think they'll be there to win it, and I actually have high hopes for them this season. I mean, not that they're going to be like going to the championship or anything, but I think they'll do pretty well overall.
Yep. And like Small Town Republic said, he could see Petrino and Fisher clashing.
Totally.
You get egos, and especially one was used to running his own program in different places. It's hard, especially if you start to struggle. You start getting questioned by your boss as to what you're doing and what it has that potential to be nasty. And I tell you, it could be nastier than what happened last year with the locker room problems and stuff like that. But yeah, all right. Well, that's the week that is coming up. A couple of interesting games, whatever. So we're gonna move into the final part of our show here. We're going to do some of the picks. Currently, we've been week 1. Daisy went 7-7. She used cats. She used cat. She chose based on the quality of the cat mascot, and so Daisy went 7-7, and I went 12-2 last week. So, as you see at the bottom are our guests that are scheduled currently this year. We got OC Dobbins here, and then got a cousin of mine, Anthony, next week, hopefully, and B from O and Small Town Republic. We got the Auburn fans coming up, and so we got JT Kirk, Sparty, Whoopa Trooper, Jane Theory, and Lorena Creole. So this is the scheduled lineup for this year. This is where we stand as it is currently residing. So now we go into week 2 of action. Remember, again, this is not for gambling. We're just having some fun talking about football. We're just going to pick up straight up winners, losers, nothing with points and things like that. So with that, we will get off into this week's action. Week 2 picks. The first game, again, Texas at Alabama, and OC Dobbins picks Alabama.
Of course.
Yeah. Is that homer pick, or do you feel confident with this one, or just?
I'm mainly confident, but I mean, I need to see a little more before I have more faith back in Alabama. But yeah, I mean, I think Alabama will win. It'll probably be closer than I want it to be. It'll
Mhm.
stress me out, but that's all
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh,
But yeah,
yep. I understand. Yeah, but hey, at least if it's a close game, it's against Texas. It's against a credible
yeah,
opponent, though. At
they're
least,
ranked. Yeah,
yeah, it makes it, and actually in the top 10 or top 11, depending on which poll you look at.
right.
So, win's a win. That's all you got to do.
Hmm.
Win in advance. So, and if they do lose, it's a non-conference game against a ranked team.
And it's early.
And it's early. Yes, exactly. So with that, we talked about the game a little bit. My concerns with Jalen Mill, that's the biggest question I've got with that team, the quarterback play. That's the biggest problem I have. I was not impressed with what I saw last year. Yeah, I know there's more camp. I know there's stuff, but he's not played that much more against good
He
competition. Go ahead.
Yeah, he looks so much more improved to me this season
Mhm.
so far. I know it's been one game, and
Yeah.
then I hear the stuff about coming out of like the scrimmages and stuff ahead of time. Um, I have faith in him. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he does, and then this will be a real test because this is an actual contender here.
Mhm.
So this we'll know for sure after this game what he's going to bring for the rest of the season. I think.
Yep. Well, on that note, I will say that I believe that my concerns at quarterback will come true this week, and I'm going with the Longhorns on the road for upset win on the road because I saw what I saw last year. Ewers is back for Texas and was very effective in the win over Rice. Yeah, you've got an experienced quarterback coming into Tuscaloosa. It just, but we got to play the game. We'll see what happens. To
Hmm.
me, this game comes down to the quarterback position. Proven
Your
quarterback versus still unproven quarterback.
their offensive line is not that good this year.
Yeah, it's
So that
if all you got to, if you can protect the quarterback, we'll have to see what happens. That's the big if is if. I've seen some offensive lines that have been shredded, then all of a sudden out of nowhere come up and play like champions, and then sometimes your
right.
best lines just play like crap. But to me, this game comes down to the quarterback play, and we'll see what happens Saturday.
True.
Okay, now we got Kent State at Arkansas. Some of these I'm going to kind of go through a little bit faster because, like we said, the paycheck games. We both take Arkansas. That's an easy choice that we got there. Auburn, California. OC took Auburn. Any feeling?
Yeah.
Any?
Um, I went back, like most of mine. I went back to see. Well, I looked to see what the spread was and all that, and like what they did in prior games, and I just feel like uh, I was being pulled more a little bit towards Auburn. Even though I don't really like Auburn that much, but I still think they've got this one.
Yeah. Alabama fan, pain to have to pick Auburn. I got that. I understand that. It's like I hate picking Tennessee and Georgia ever, but I'd say this one I'm going home team. The California being at home. The SEC teams generally don't play as well on the West Coast. It's
Hmm.
like even in the NFL, the East Coast teams that go west don't generally perform as well.
Right.
California does have some experience. They do have. There's something to be said that they be playing on the West Coast. So Auburn's still young. Auburn's, you know, they had a good whole first game at home, new quarterback on the road. How does that perform? So, I that's why I'm going with California here. Um, any other thoughts with that game?
Not really. No, I mean I understand your perspective on it and stuff. I think
No.
maybe mine's a little bit more wishful thinking.
Well, either way, hey, sometimes wishful thinking is better than analysis. So,
Right.
okay, these next four, we're just going to go through them because obviously we both take Florida. You know what? I will say though, watch that game though. I will say we're going to know something about, and I might as well. Georgia's going to win easily with that. I mean, we know that, but I think you watch this McNeese Florida game. This one,
Hmm.
with what I've seen with this Gator offense for 2 seasons, even last year with Anthony Richardson, they struggled to score 24 points against Missouri. They scored to score some points against some very weak and average teams. After seeing what they did at Utah, this game could be closer, at least in the first half, than you might think.
I can see that.
It's possible. And I'll tell you, if that happens, yeah, all the wheels are off in Gainesville. It's just this is a game you've got to win. Go out early and win easily. So, but we'll see with that because Eastern Kentucky will dispatch Eastern Kentucky. LSU will take care of Grambling. All right. So now we flip over to Ole Miss Tulane, and you take Ole Miss, and I agree with you. Yes. To me, this one comes down to conference pride. I think Ole Miss has put up huge numbers last week, even though it was against a very smaller, inferior opponent. I still think that they have more offense than what Tulane does, and will win this. And I don't really think home field advantage makes much of a difference in this one. What do you think?
I'm sorry, which one was this?
It's the Ole Miss Tulane.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hmm?
Ole Miss Tulane still. I feel like what's his name? God, I'm drawing a blank right now. Lane. I think Lane will have his people show up for this, and it's not like a far drive. I mean, to get to it, travel and everything. So I think they'll show up and I think they'll dominate them.
Yeah, I agree. I tell you, I think Ole Miss Ole Miss has to win these games to have a good year. And Lane does win these games. He usually does not get knocked off in a lot of these games, but the games he can't win are against the Alabama, Mississippi State, the Texas A&M's. The big teams that he needs to beat. If like I said last year as a recap, when I looked at teams like Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, if you looked, they were like 0-4 against all of the big schools. LSU, when you think of Alabama and LSU as the top two, but when they played any combination of the others, they were like all 0-4. It's like you're going to always be in the middle of the pack if you can't at least beat one or two of the bigger teams in the West.
Right.
Yep. So hey, Lane, we'll see what happens with Lane now. Lane plays at Tulane anyway. So okay. All right, Mississippi State. We both agree with that game. I agree with you with the humidity in the South. That and the cowbell, folks. If you want cowbell,
oh my God.
Have you ever been to a game in Starkville, or have you been one? I know that we have a bowl game here that they allowed them. They made a rule exception to let them bring those damn cowbells in.
Yeah. They brought the cowbells to Alabama last time when I saw them play it at Bryant-Denny.
I mean, it's horrendous. It's like,
They let them do it.
Yeah. Well, they did for this bowl game. They won't let anybody else have noisemakers, but they do. But you know what? In some part of me, it's annoying as hell. But, from the tradition aspect, I'm kind of glad that they allow them to. Because, it is
I get it.
part of their thing, and that's the only thing. And it's kind of like, yeah, give them a bone, Let them do the tradition. Because we're losing all of our other traditions and stuff. And, that Small Town Republic said it's McNeese State. They will crush them. Thank you. The Small Town Republic keeps giving me comfort about the Gators every week. So, hey. All right. So, we're going to blow through these others. We got Middle Tennessee at Missouri, which we agree. We got South Carolina, Furman, Austin P. Texas A&M at Miami. We both take the Canes.
Oh, interesting.
How did this one come down to for you?
Let me see. I was trying to look. I think I looked at what they did last week, and then let's see right there. The point spread was only 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then I saw what they did last week, and I'm like, oh, Miami may pull this off. So that's how I made my decision.
I came down. Van Dyke actually stepped up, played well last week for Miami. Miami seemed, they had a good first game too. About like Texas A&M, they're at home. It can be a raucous crowd down there. The humidity. I mean, A&M is still in the South too, but still, that South Florida humidity is something else too, though.
Yeah.
I think Cristobal's got this team turned around to get to go forward, and I still don't. Petrino as offensive coordinator gives them some hope, but there's just something about this ACC. We've seen it in other cases. North Carolina beat South Carolina. FSU crushed LSU. The ACC is not bad for football. They're actually pretty good, and I think we'll see another ACC win there. Small time republic. Yeah. So, if Mississippi State was as good as Georgia or Alabama, they wouldn't allow the cowbells.
Probably not.
Dang straight, exactly.
That's true.
You wouldn't have to have that. So now we got the last game of the week. We got Vanderbilt. You take Vanderbilt, and I agree with you with Vanderbilt. Exactly. Vanderbilt. So we pretty much agree with these back half of games and all that. So this game was hard for me because every time I pick Vanderbilt in this matchup in recent years, Wake Forest wins. It's just this is one of the hard ones.
I always feel bad for Vanderbilt. They've always been like the little brother for the SEC, and we always whip up on them and everything. And I always root for them unless we're playing them. And I know the spread's like 10 points or something like that, but I think they have enough in them to pull this off. I think they'll get excited about the beginning of the year, and I think they can. I think they can do this.
Yeah, that's where I went with. Hopefully, AJ Swan does perform as a quarterback. If Wake Forest was not playing a new quarterback from last year, a different quarterback from last year, I definitely would go with Wake Forest at home. But Wake Forest struggled with another small conference team at home. It was Elon. I think they were playing Elon, but it was like, it was closer than it should have been when you talk conference pride. But like I said, the problem I have though is every time I try to go Vanderbilt in a game like this, they don't win. Except last year, what was funny is I wanted to pick them against Florida, but I didn't. And then that was the year they beat Florida for the first time in 30 years. So, folks, we basically disagree on only two games. The Texas at Alabama, where I take Texas, OC takes Alabama, and then Auburn, OC takes, and I take California at home.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the things that makes this early part of the season kind of not so fun, is that, it's really kind of just, they're easy. They're paycheck games. They're the cannon fodder. Yeah. It's basically glorified games, pace, almost like a preseason for a lot of teams.
Practice games.
I missed, and I tell you, as a Gator fan, I missed that first game of the year used to be late 70s, early 80s was Miami. It was either in Gainesville or in Coral Gables. Yeah, they played every year for a long time. But then Florida dumped them, because we needed a home game to help pay for the stadium and stuff like that. And it was like, I didn't buy that either. We started dodging them. And it was just like, I know Spurrier wanted to get that going again when he came back, but could not because of the finance issues. And they need that home game. But it misses. It's sad that the three state schools, well, Miami's a private school, but three state of Florida schools don't play each other every year. It was kind of like the service academy thing that they all played each other every year, and you could actually have bragging rights. But but blame it on the Gators. They decided not to do, and they bumped it up every once in a while. They met in bowl games occasionally, so it's definitely heated when they do play. The fans have not forgotten the rivalry.
Right. All right. Yeah, I miss the kickoff games. The kickoff games that they used to have for we had one last year, I think, but they didn't do it this year for some reason, where we have a kickoff game in like Atlanta, or we do it in Dallas, playing like somebody from some other conference. It usually ranked or were good last year, but we didn't do it this year. We played.
Well, Yeah, the LSU Florida State game was in Camping World Stadium. I think that was
Hmm.
considered a kickoff game. I think
Right.
Louisville played Georgia Tech as a kickoff game. But it's kind of like, how many kickoff games can we have?
I know.
It's like
I
usually
got
one.
spoiled. I got
Yeah.
spoiled with the Alabama kickoff games.
Uh, well, everybody want Alabama.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed with them. So, well, OC, I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. Is there anything
Oh,
else you want to say or that we want to cover with
no, I
football or anything?
thank you for having me on. It's great. I'm glad I could be a part of it. Like your channel, like your content.
Well, thank you
Um,
very much.
love talking about Alabama and college football with you. Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
I'll be
it would be
calling.
nice to do it again one day.
All right. Well, I'll have to call you up again, and maybe I'm working on some possible ideas during game days and stuff. I'm just kind of floating around with different ideas, but how it is having time, making time, and
Hmm.
other things. Prioritizing different things. But absolutely, I'll definitely shoot you an email and let you
Cool.
know when I go live or think about it, or if I'm looking at doing something one night. So. All right. Well,
Sounds good.
appreciate you being here. Let me do a few channel announcements. And so here, our next stream officially is next Thursday night's game. Make sure you watch us. And yes, Lisa hit it right here. Thank you, OC. Great guest. Very informative. Thank you for
Nice.
that. And that was really a cool Halo helmet. That truly
Oh,
was cool.
thank you. Thank you.
And so a lot of our streams are going to be very impromptu for a while because I'm working on other things and a lot of times research and getting the slides right. I saw some typos tonight. Ugh, I got a better with my proofreading. But hey, uh, next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Anthony is a relative of mine that big Gator fan. Hope to have him on, and somebody that's traveled the whole SEC with his family, and hope you join us for that. That should be fun. That could be an emotional, um, really in depth stream next uh, show next week. Yeah, we will see later, but there will definitely be Fortnite at some point, Lisa. Uh, but yeah, with that, also looking at our scheduled guests again for the weeks. We've had Daisy Blossom, now OC Dobbins, next week with Anthony. Take a look down there. B from O, you're scheduled September 21st, and Small Time Republic, you're scheduled September 28th. And we got a lot of other people that we know around the channel and that have been here many times. And I think think there are three people that were repeats from last year. Uh, Mark D with a C, Whoopa Troopa, and Lorena Creole. Of course, you got to have Lorena Creole when it comes to Florida State Week. So, you got to, you know. And, the only other thing I could think of is having OC Dobbins and Small Town Republic here face to face Auburn, Alabama week one time. That'd be fun. But
Good
yeah, folks,
times.
it says they go there. But listen, all my live streams and videos are on youtube.com, twitch.tv, at Dadman Walking 55. Go see them there. Check out our playlist. I need to update some of the stuff to our playlist too. But also follow me on Twitter to see when I go live, especially if I go live on the spur of the moment. That Twitter's the best way to find that out. But also make sure you hit the notifications on Twitch, hit the bell on YouTube. Get those notifications, but as a backup, make sure you follow me on Twitter because sometimes people do not get the notifications on YouTube, and it's been the tweet that has got their attention. So I think with that, let me see. I got one more slide. So all right. So remember that Dadman Walking 55 on Twitter, and we will see you next Thursday for more football. Unless we go live with something else in the meantime. But hey, see you next Thursday for football. Bye, everyone.